Hey y'all, it's Zoe and welcome back to another video on my channel. I apologize if I look really bad. It is my shower night and I am slightly hot. I just changed out of what I was wearing all day. Even though the weather's like really nice outside and like there's a bit of a breeze, I still feel very hot. Anyways, so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to make this week's YouTube video about. I was struggling for it for a while, so after thinking about it for a while and kind of thinking like what videos I could do that's adoption related, I settled on what you see in the title, which is I'm basically going to be talking to you about my adoptee identity and like how COVID affected it, and kind of just my struggles with that part of who I am. So yeah, let's get on with the video. Alright, so to start things off, if you followed me back in March, you saw me post this video. If you go back and watch it, it's a very, very hard video to watch. Not only is it almost 20 minutes long, but I look like I'm about to start like bawling my eyes out. It's very bad. It's a very, very bad video. Not bad in a bad way, bad in a good way. I don't know if that makes any sense. But my mental health was at an all-time low. I did talk about some of what I'm about to talk about. I talked about in that video. But it was right after the Atlanta shooting, which I will probably get to in a bit. So basically, I think this all kind of started March of 2020, which seems like so long ago, but also it wasn't, when COVID kind of first came to the US. And I think for me it was just the idea that something came from the country I was born in. And in 2020 we had President Trump, who called it China virus, and I think that really like escalated a lot of the xenophobia and racism that came with the virus, is calling it China virus. And so many people were like, but we have like the Spanish flu and all that stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, to me just like, I don't know, it was just, I got very upset by using that word. Also Kung flu, that was the first thing I saw, like back when before school got canceled, before spring break, I saw a meme about Kung flu, and that's kind of when it hit me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like there's about to be a whole bunch of memes about this virus. And so then I think just like reading all about all the Asian hate crimes and, you know, comments like go back to your country, and like just really like a lot of hate towards the Asian community. That was hard for me to read. And then being like going out in public was also kind of difficult for me, because I'm pretty sure I did get stared at a Walgreens back home. I got stared at a Goodwill here in Worcester, which I did talk about in that really long video. So the fact that like people will stare at you because they think you're contagious didn't really sit with me well. And I think the main part for me that's been the hardest is just navigating the fact that I'm adopted. So I don't have parents who are Asian, and I don't have grandparents who are Asian, so I can't really relate to any of the like Asian elderly attack kind of thing. But also like, because I was adopted as a baby, like this is the only place I've ever known. I don't have citizenship in China anymore. I'm an American citizen. I've been here my whole life. Like English, while technically is my second language, is not really. It's really my first language. Like that's the only language I learned growing up. So hearing things like go back to your country and you shouldn't be here and go back home and all this stuff, like this is my home. This is where I grew up. Like everyone I know is here. So that was kind of hard for me, because I was like, well, I can't relate to the Asian American community who has gone through so many hardships, and their ancestors have gone through so much with the Chinese Exclusion Act and Japanese internment camps and all this other stuff. I can't relate to that. But I also like, I can't go anywhere. Like this is my home. I don't have anywhere to go if I go back home to China. So like that was also kind of hard for me to deal with as well. And then the shooting in Atlanta happened, which just got me so upset, and seeing it all on social media, that was the worst part, is just seeing it over and over and over again. Every time I opened my phone, every time I went on Instagram, it was just all over people's stories. Like I had to stop going on Instagram. It got so bad. Like if you know me, you know I'm very, very active on Instagram and Facebook, and like seeing it everywhere, I couldn't do it. I couldn't go on Instagram, and like it was so bad. It made me extremely sad and just put me in a really bad place. And that's kind of what motivated me to do the march, which I also posted a video about, of me giving a speech, kind of doing a march with my school. So I think the hardest part for me has just been like recognizing that the people doing this are people that look like my family, and they're harming people that look like me. So that's been tough for me as an Asian American, is like, I don't want to be American or white because they're the ones doing the bad, but I don't want to be Asian because they're the ones receiving the bad. So now I'm caught in the middle of, well, I don't want to identify as American because Americans are being hateful, and I don't want to identify as Asian because Asians are the ones receiving the hate. So now I'm caught in the middle of these two groups. I'm doing gestures with my hands, and I realize that y'all can't even see what I'm doing, but it's fine. So now I'm just like, it was like I was caught in between, and I didn't really know what to do. So I kind of struggled with that for a while, just of, you know, figuring out what exactly my identity was. But now, I mean, I've always been proud to be Asian American. Like, I've loved talking about Asian culture and being Chinese and sharing my story. Like, just ask anyone I grew up with. Like, I would talk about my adoption story all the time. So it's not like I was never afraid of it, or like ashamed of being adopted, or ashamed of being Chinese. Like, I love being Chinese. I'm proud of my background. But in those instances where Asian hate was increasing, and it's still pretty bad because COVID is still a thing, it's just tough to kind of navigate that. Well, on the outside I look like the part, but on the inside I don't feel the part. Like, I've never felt fully Chinese, but I've also never felt fully American, because like I said before, I don't have Asian parents, I don't have that history or that background, but I'm also not white, so I don't get the privileges that white people do. And like, while I do have a white family, and I do consider myself to be very privileged compared to some people, I'm still not outwardly privileged. I'm still a woman, and I'm still a woman of color, so bad things will still happen for me. So I think I'm just stuck in between this identity of being Asian and being American, and then also just being an adoptee, so like not even really being like genetically connected to either of those communities, especially like transracial. So like, my mom is a different race than me, so it's kind of hard for us to talk about things like that when she has all of this outward privilege that I don't have. So I know this video wasn't much, and it was really short, and it was just me talking, but I hope you enjoyed listening to me, because sometimes I listen to myself and I'm just like, why do I talk? Why do I make YouTube videos? I'm gonna be editing this tomorrow, and I'm just gonna be like, why, Zoe? Why are you talking? But no, I do think it's like, it's a tough thing to manage, especially when you're the target of discrimination and stereotypes and prejudice. And I've grown up with plenty of stereotypes, trust me. Like, I've gotten Asian F's and like Chinese eyes, and you're supposed to be smart, and I got asked if I was gonna eat a dog. So like, I've gotten my fair share of stereotypes and discrimination and bullying for being Chinese. So I think it was just the upsurge of it because of this one virus. It just makes me upset that we have associated this virus with a specific country and a specific population, because it's not their fault. We have no control over this virus. So it just made me upset that people would say Kung flu and China virus, and that just spreads the hate and spreads xenophobia. So I think I actually made a video once of like my thoughts about it, and I received some very negative comments on that video. But there's always going to be haters in the world, so I guess I can't really control that. But yeah, I know this video was just kind of me ranting and going off. When you get me started, I get very heated about certain things, and I can just like go off on tangents. But I do hope that you enjoyed listening to me talk about that. And if there's anyone out there watching who also struggles with identity and feels like they're stuck in between two groups for numerous reasons, not necessarily because you're adopted, you're not alone. If you asked me now if I was proud to be Chinese, I would tell you yes. I am proud to be Chinese, and I love doing all things Asian, like cooking Asian foods and just learning more about the culture and like immersing myself in that culture, which is one reason why I want to go back to China, because just being there makes me feel like a new sense of home. But then we have the language barrier, which has always been tough for me, because I'm not fluent and I don't have parents that speak it. So that's always been a rough patch for me, is that language barrier that prevents me from communicating, because I go there and they expect me to know what they're saying and understand them and communicate with them perfectly, and then I don't understand what they're saying, and when I talk back with an American accent. So anyways, that was my identity crisis, and I don't know if it will ever go away. I think it's always going to be where I feel in between, but you know, I work through it and I move on, and I'm just happy being me. I don't really need to fit into a specific category. I don't need to be put in a box. I'm just Zoe, and I'm fine the way I am, and I am different and special and unique in my own ways, and you are too. Literally every single one of you watching this video, even though we're put in these boxes and categories based on society, we're not a box, we're not a category, we're just ourselves. So I hope you enjoyed this video of me talking. I'm sorry if it was boring. Sometimes I feel like when I rant, people get bored. So I will see you all in next week's video. I gotta think about what to do for that video too. So I'll see you next week. Bye!